The key question, if we're going to get anywhere, is, am I truly myself? Or have I been hoodwinked by the thinking mind? And am I labouring under a false identity? Now, that's a very simple question, very straightforward question. Am I who I truly am? Or have I been deceived in this matter? Am I some false idea of myself? Either my own false idea of myself or someone else's false idea of myself, my parents perhaps, or society's false idea of myself. It doesn't make any difference. It all comes down to the same thing, which is, I think I'm this false idea of myself. And whether they mean to or not, our parents definitely project upon us a wrong idea of who we are. They can't help doing it. Nobody can help doing that, just about. Very few people can help doing that. It's like a reflex. It is a reflex. So all of our friends will do the same thing. If you've got a friend, one thing that you can be sure of is that they're projecting a wrong idea of who you are onto you. Mostly anyway. As I said, I imagine there's some people that wouldn't do that, but few and far between. So family members, people at work, people anywhere, they're all very, very busy projecting a false idea of who you are upon you. Very often we can shrug this off. If it's just somebody in the street, we can shrug their judgment off fairly easily. Because who the hell are they? They don't even know us. But when we're young and the adults who are taking care of us consistently project a wrong idea of who we are onto us, then we take this idea. Of course, we take it and we run with it. It becomes us. This could be called brainwashing, but that makes it sound something special, and it isn't something special. It's just what happens. When we're in the unconscious mode, we don't relate to reality. We relate to our idea of reality, which we project on reality. So we project our idea of reality onto reality, and then we react to it. So other people are no different. We project our mistaken ideas of who they are on them, then we relate to that. And so society as a whole gives us a false idea of who we are. And if we want to get anywhere in society, which we do, unless we happen to be a hermit or someone who wants to be an escapee from society, and there's always been a certain amount of people who can see the insanity of socialized life and wouldn't wish to do this. But if we want to get on in society, we have to accept the identity that we are encouraged to take on. And this isn't something that's done against our will, because every time we achieve something, or we achieve some kind of approval or validation from society, that is always approval for or validation for who we're not. But we like the validation, we like the approval. We all like validation and approval. So we're very quick to accept it. If an honour is bestowed upon me, just supposing, I'm quick to step up and accept the honour, even though the honour isn't for me, but it's for who society or who socialized or generic mind identifies me as being. So if I want the reward from the socialized or generic mind, which is kind of like the Borg type mind of everyone that takes part in society, if I want that approval, acceptance, validation, and as I've said I do, then I have to go along with it, and I'm quick to go along with it, and I'm happy to go along with it. And what's more, I don't even know that I'm going along with anything. And at the same time, the other side of the coin of this is whenever I fail to be who I'm supposed to be, I get devalidation. So instead of reward, I get the punishment. And if I knew who I was and wasn't afraid of being independent in my views, this wouldn't bother me so much. But we start off not being independent, we start off being dependent. And so we instinctively try very hard to be, I try very hard to be the sort of me who is going to be validated by my parents and later on by my peers and by school, etc., etc. We can call this socialization, which is a nice, fairly harmless sounding word, but it's not such a benign process as all that, because what we're really doing is we're learning not to show what we truly think, or not to show who we truly are, because we don't want to be either punished or we don't want people taking the piss out of us or whatever. And so we turn our back on ourselves and become who we're supposed to be, obediently. And we never know that we're doing this. It's too consistent a process. It's happening all the time. The need to adapt is happening all the time. And what's more, I see the process, if I do see it, or in the way that I might possibly see it, through the viewpoint of the mind that is given to me, not through my own consciousness. So it seems like a good thing. It seems like a benign process. So very clearly, if there's going to be any kind of meaningful process of growth or any meaningful process whereby I was going to say any meaningful therapeutic process, because that's what we're kind of talking about. It has to be on the basis of first having asked this question and got to understand a little bit about the question. Otherwise there's no growth and there is absolutely no therapeutic process. There's only therapy for the false idea of myself, and it's not just useless, it's worse than useless, because it entrenches the false idea that I have of myself. It entrenches the mask, the persona, the implant, the implanted identity I've been implanted with. So the question is, am I really being true to myself? or am I being true to some false idea? And if I'm being true to a false idea, I'm being false. Although I am true to the false idea, I'm false when it comes down to it. And this is a bit like in the movie Inception. It's the all-important question. Am I in the actual original reality where everything started? Or am I in a dream reality that's been spun off? Am I in a dream universe? And because the dream realities are facsimiles, and you can't tell them apart by looking at them, you have to have some way of knowing. So in Inception, in the movie Inception, if you've seen it, there's a little trick that you can do, and that's great. So you do the little thing with the little spinning thing, and that way you find out whether you're in the real original reality or whether you've woken up from one dream into another dream, which is a process that can go on forever. And if you had no way of testing, you could wake up out of one dream, but you haven't really woken up because you're in another dream. So in that situation, in the situation that is in the film Inception, it's easy. But in real life, it's not so easy because there's nothing we can do. There is no little thing that we can spin on the table top to see, is this the original true me, or is it just a dream I'm having about somebody who I'm not? So that's tricky. And of course, if you were to go down the street and ask people in all seriousness, armed with a clipboard or whatever, are you who you really are? Or have you been hijacked by the thinking mind, and have you identified with some false identity? We could definitely go along the street and ask hundreds and hundreds of people, and the answer is going to be very quick. People are going to say, no, it's really me. If they can be bothered to answer such a stupid question in the first place, they're going to say, yeah, it's really me, this is truly me, absolutely. Of course, you can try it with your friends and relatives. But then again, such a quick response means that there's no effort, there's no inquiry gone into it at all. There is zero inquiry gone into it, as if that question isn't really worth inquiry. So it's just like an assumption, a reflex. Yeah, this is me. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I am me. So the answer that we give when we question like this isn't worth a damn. As I've just said, it's like an automatic reflex. So suppose I did a bad thing, and then shortly afterwards people come up to me and they say, did you do the bad thing? And I say, no, I didn't do the bad thing. It wasn't me. I wasn't there. Someone else told me to do it, or whatever. That kind of automatic response is just a denial of the truth, because the truth hurts, or the truth could get me in trouble in that case. So when we reply and say that I am who I truly am, and not some kind of false idea of who I am, that's a mechanical reflex based on the fear of seeing the truth. Now, if you were to go away and make serious inquiry, kind of go into it for a good period of time, then your answer would be something different. You could take a year out and do some self-observation and try to get to the bottom of that, which is following the advice that's written above the temple of Apollo. The advice says, which says, know yourself. Generally speaking, I mean, this advice, for all that it's carved up above the temple of Apollo, may seem somewhat unsatisfactory when it comes to some kind of crucial epitome of philosophy. So we think about the ancient Greeks and all their philosophers and all of that, and we think, well, is that it? Is that the best they can come up with? Know thyself. Because we check in with ourselves, and then I check in with myself, and then I say, yeah, I know myself. Yeah. And then I get on with my life, and it's not my life really, it's the life that is being led by the idea of myself, which isn't really life at all, but a kind of mechanical kind of simulation, or a series of reflexes arranged end to end, ultimately ending in my death. So we don't really see that as being particularly momentous or profound. And over the years, commentators have tried to commentate upon this and work out, try and say something about it and why, what was meant by the ancient Greeks. But what is meant by this inscription is simply this core question, this inception type question. Are you the true original, who you are, whoever that is? And we're not going to go into who that is, because there's no point in doing that, because then that would just be a search for another definite identity or ego. Or are you mistaken? And if you're mistaken, or if I'm mistaken, that means we carry on totally blasé, making do with an inferior product. And not just an inferior product, a vastly inferior, crappy, pound shop type product. It's like a manufactured identity, a generic identity, which is two-dimensional, it's got no depth to it, and is made up entirely of mechanical reflexes. So whenever I do stop questioning and stop asking questions, as small children ask questions until they're stopped, then I make do with a vastly inferior version. And once I go down that road, I'm in such a hurry to avail of the approval, the validations, the titles, the honours that society will hopefully bestow upon me. That's all that I care about, that's all that I'm concerned with, obtaining the validations. So I imagine that these validations will make me feel good. I hope that the validations will make me feel good, because I don't really feel good, because it's not possible to feel good when we're living life based on a phony idea of ourselves. In itself, there's no good feeling in it. And there's zero good feeling in it. So we have to live in our hopes and our expectations and our belief in what is being promised to us. So for a little moment, if I do receive some validation or approval, that feels really good. It feels like heroin. As Anthony Tomello said, he said something like that. So the mind-created identity loves approval and validation, because for the mind-created identity, approval or validation, that's its heroin. It's addicted to it. It really, really does need to get a constant supply. So for a brief moment, it's as if we have obtained what it is we're missing, which is really being, actual authentic being, rather than theatrical or virtual being. So for a moment, it's as if they're actually really existing, that this is a real thing, and we feel good, but it's very, very brief, and it's a trick. It's not the real thing. So this means that we're hooked into trying to get somewhere within the terms that have been provided for us by society, onward and onward, over and over again, never giving up hope that we're on the trail of the real thing. But we're not. And so this is the situation that we end up almost inevitably, or maybe inevitably, once we give up on our own interiority, which is the same as ceasing to observe ourselves or question ourselves, and live entirely on the outside, in the exterior. And the exterior is the shared or consensus world that is created by society that we all agree is true. And because we all agree it's true, and because there's a lot of us, and because our agreement is a powerful thing, our lack of questioning is a very powerful thing. Because you get somewhere by buying into that agreement, and you get punished or exiled or excommunicated by not believing in it. You get the cold shoulder of humanity for not believing it. It's a very powerful thing. So of course we're going to live the exterior life. We're going to live life all on the outside and look for everything on the outside. But that's never going to do us any good, because it's all on a false basis. And we've made our lives all about adaptation to the system, rather than looking at the one who wishes to adapt to the system. And asking the question, who is this one who wants to adapt to the system, or do I really want to adapt to the system? Because after all, it is really a bunch of bullshit, really. It doesn't reward genuine virtue, but only theatrical virtue. So we're all very hasty, and in the field of mental health, we're nothing if not hasty. We're trained hastily. We jump into our professional roles very hastily, and we put all our energy into fixing. And because we're putting all our energy into fixing and goal-orientated therapies, we don't do any questioning. We don't do any radical questioning. We might do superficial questioning, such as we find in the CBT protocols, but we don't do any radical questioning. And radical questioning is asking the question that I started off with. Is this really who I am? Or is this just who I've been told that I am? Okay, thanks for watching.